Hey, good morning. I just wanted to take just a moment to welcome you to the class. We're starting in just shortly, a few weeks, and I wanted to just say hello and to let you know a little bit about me and what I'm about as a teacher, and maybe encourage you to begin your mental preparations. I mean, we have to kind of get in gear to uh, take a history class. I think most of us realize that history may not be exactly what we think it is. Most of us think that history is just one story. It is, and Benjamin Franklin actually said that. He said there is a civic history. It is a story we tell ourselves about ourselves that we use in nation building. That is the narrative that you got in high school. You didn't delve deeply into the things that you considered there, but you did get a story, storyline that we use. Sadly, it is mainly about how great white men discovered and conquered America. You don't find many stories of the women involved, or Native Americans, or African Americans, or Asian Americans. Those are side stories. They are very much a part of the history, but they're not told in this narrative that we use to do that. By the same token, the idea of America as a Christian nation is a side story. We see a lot of emphasis today on us trying to bring back or bring into being, which I think bring into being this story of America as a Christian nation. But that story itself also ignores many of the truths that were present in the founding fathers. And we have to ask what kind of Christianity was it they want to bring back, because the Christianity of the Puritans and the Pilgrims was very different from the general Christianity that we have in America today. It was built on John Calvin's ideas, more about dominionism and the fact that we're to take over the world and to rule it as a religious theocracy. That was the religion of of those founders, and interestingly enough, when we listen to the talk today, they use the language of faith, but you always have to ask yourself what do those words mean in the context of which they are using them. In fact, I'm writing a book now on the Bible as a weapon versus the Bible as a book of wisdom, because we see so many things today where the Bible's turned into a weapon to beat and abuse people when it should be a book of wisdom. And words change. Words must be understood within the context of which they were written, and no matter how much we'd like to believe that they're the same, they're not. And so there's a lot of things involved in writing and understanding, even in history. We have to go back when we talk about a Republican, which in American history, we're talking about either the Jeffersonian Republicans, the Lincoln Republicans, or the present day Republicans, and they're not the same. In fact, in 1964, the Democratic and Republican parties completely switched sides and switched most of their constituents. Most African Americans in 1964 and prior would have been Republicans. It was the party of of Lincoln, I'm sorry. And most white folks, especially Southern white folks, would have been Democrats. And then along came Jack Kennedy, and he was pro civil rights. And so there is a complete switching of parties. And so by 1968, when Richard Nixon sweeps the nation as Republican, they have now completed that switch. So there's a lot of things in history that you can talk about. Now, this class is going from 1877 to the present. That's quite a lot of material. Has become a problem in recent years because the second half of American history has just kind of kept on going and going and going, like the Energizer Bunny. And so, at the very best, unless we just make an effort of skipping a lot of things that we could talk about, we really today, generally, most schools are splitting this class into two from 1877 to 1950, which ended World War II and the beginning of the Cold War, and then 1950 to the present. And I often teach the second half of that history. So, but we're here for the entirety. So in the next 5 weeks, we're going to have to cover quite a bit of ground and territory. I do encourage you to read the text. We cannot talk about everything there is to talk about. I am open to questions and discussion points. I encourage that. Is the one thing that I miss in having online classes is that I don't get to see you face to face and talk to you and answer your questions directly. But if you will register your questions, I'm more than happy to discuss those and help us to come to some better understanding. So as we get ready for the coming week, I will try to do one of these every week and just kind of bring you up to par on where we are and what we're discussing. But just remember, 1877 was the end of Reconstruction. The Civil War had ended. Reconstruction was in full vogue. Andrew Johnson was the president, and he put troops in every state under martial law, except the state of Tennessee, his home state. So you can kind of get that feeling today as we talk about, troops going into places like Portland or into Washington, D.C., what the angst was among people then to be under military rule. 1877 was a pivotal year because Rutherford B. Hayes, a Republican, was elected president with a tie. And so they could not break the stalemate. And so they struck a deal with the southern states that they would allow Rutherford B. Hayes to be president if the North would stop military rule and take their troops home. And so that's exactly what they did. And we'll be talking about the beginning of this. The problem with that was that they now left former slaves in the hands of their former owners. And so we get Jim Crow and all the things that happen for the next 100 years without any civil rights for slaves and poor whites that were destroyed, broken by the Civil War, who were very poor. They and the slaves joined together to become sharecroppers on the same plantations where the African Americans had been slaves, working for the same master, having to buy your things from the master's general store. So it was, in some sense, sharecropping was just another form of slavery. You're going to see this pattern repeated again in cotton mills in the South, where the cotton mills came in, built houses, set up a general store, hired people out of the mountains to work. My family was involved in that, paid them in token, not money, but token. So they had to spend it at the owner's store, whose prices were elevated. So he made a profit off his people. So you're going to see this pattern repeat itself. It is the pattern used during slavery. It gets repeated again during Jim Crow and during the sharecropping years of 1877, say the 1940s, and then repeat again in cotton mills in the South. So you're going to see a lot of similarities there. Well, I could soapbox all day and talk to you about many things, but I'm looking forward to spending some time with you. And please look at my bio if you get a chance and see what you might find there to talk about. I am a writer. I've just published a book on Christian nationalism in December. I had an article in the Christian magazine in June on the Scopes monkey trial, and I'd be glad to give you a link to that if you want to read it. And then I have a book coming out on the Bible as language of a weapon as opposed to a book of wisdom. And I would be proud to have my students read those. Okay, again, we'll talk to you soon. Have a blessed time as we wait for our class to start.